Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and I just want to let you know before I bring Greg in that we've got another heavy-duty week of Bears coverage this week, and it always starts with Greg Gabriel talking football. But as the week goes on, we've got tons of shows, and it will continue on through January and beyond. And we've got you covered. New, fresh programming Sunday through Friday. So buckle up. It's going to be a heck of a year. Let me bring Greg in now. Greg Gabriel, how are you, my friend?
I'm real good. What the hell is wrong with Saturday? You take a day off or something?
I have to, man. That's why I went on vacation a couple of weeks ago.
You got your vacation in. This is,
Listen, if somebody wants to do a show for the Barroom Network on Saturday, I'll give them the keys to the barroom. Go at it. There's a lot going on. We've got some exciting new shows that we'll be talking about in the near future. But right now, it is time to talk Chicago Bears football. And by the way, Greg, you're feeling well. I understand that your lovely bride is a little under the weather.
Yeah, a little bit of the corona. But hey,
it happens. But she's
but here's the best part. You know who she got her from? A doctor.
Oh, jeez. Irony of irony.
On an appointment.
Oh my goodness, that is
it's hilarious.
Oh,
my buddy sent me a text. He used to, our neighbor up the street. He says, "You avoid that shit for 2.5 years, and then you go to the doctor and you get it."
that is so sad.
I know.
Oh, Lordy. All right. Let's begin by talking about Teven Jenkins. He's one of the big pieces of news that has emerged from camp. And David Kaplan threw some fire on the wood when he said the following. Where's my video clip? There it is. When he said the following about Teven Jenkins on his show, Recap.
From what I'm hearing, it is not a serious injury. What I'm hearing is there is a high level of disconnect between Teven and the new coaching staff, especially Chris Morgan, the new offensive line coach. That means you have a highly immature player who's got a lot of talent. As one person who would know close to the team said to me, he's their most talented lineman, but I'm also hearing he's wildly immature.
What are you hearing, Greg Gabriel?
Not buying all that.
Okay.
Does he have some maturity problems? Probably. I know of at least two teams that had red flags on them, and that was the reason they had the red flags. And it was it wasn't a personal character thing; it was more a football character, and called them more pseudo tough than really tough.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. But you know what? I never made a school call, so I can't answer the question. Nobody said that to me directly. Mm-hmm. I got it, from some good sources. But, the information I believe is what I hear myself when I'm doing the actual investigating, so to speak, on players when I made school calls. But Cap's right about one thing. He's very, very talented. Mm-hmm. There is an injury. I don't know what the injury is. They don't have to tell you what the injury is. And frankly, I like that idea. The media hates it. Absolutely hates it. But it's been 10 years now, and I tweeted that out last week. It's been 10 years now that the league said you do not have to. If you want to disclose the injury, you can, but you don't have to. And the reason for that being is you don't want to give your opponents any type of competitive advantage. Even if a guy tweaks his knee, twists his ankle, pulls the hamstring or whatever, it's just something, especially if you're playing that person early in the year, you can set your game plan. If it's a key player, you can set your game plan to go after that guy. Mm-hmm. So, until you get into week 1 of the regular season, you don't have to disclose anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things about Teven Jenkins that is concerning is the fact that he has, at the very least, a really bad run of luck. I mean, what happened to him last season, suffering a back injury, that was not related to the back injury he had in college. And now this mysterious element. And then when he did play, he was humiliated publicly by a teammate who pushed him around because he got a penalty, and he clearly wasn't ready to play last year.
But in fairness, there was people that stood up for him for that too.
Yes, that's true.
And especially the new GM, because he was the only guy who went in to protect the quarterback. Yeah, and it's the guy who was pulling him away is no longer here. Mm-hmm. So there's two sides to every story all the time. Absolutely. And you just got to let things play out. I'm not doubting that he's hurt. I'm not doubting his talent. There's something missing. What the hell that is? I went back and looked at it just out of curiosity. I went back and looked at some game tape from his last year at Oklahoma State, and he can be a dominating player. Mm-hmm. If he may lack some toughness, but he doesn't show it on the football field. He gets after people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Sam Rush,
maybe it's mental toughness. That part I can't tell you.
Yeah, well, yeah, and one of the reasons he was brought in was because he's got a mean streak on him. So it is kind of weird if that is an issue. But Sam Rush, it does appear that he is on the sidelines because of an injury and not because of immaturity. How serious is this injury? What is the injury? We don't know. Nobody knows right now.
And if you listen to Flus give his presser today after practice, mm-hmm. He said, he's still out. He's still dealing with the trainers. And then he said, the guy who's going to be out a little while is Graham. In fact, then he went on, probably a little slip of the tongue, and he goes, he's got a hamstring issue. Mm. So he broke his own rule by telling exactly what the hell the injury was. But so, hamstrings could be a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And sometimes more, depending on the seriousness of the injury. Trust me, I know I had my fair share of those things. Mm-hmm. And how about this though? And this goes back to working with Rusty Jones for a long time, is that the majority of hamstring injuries aren't, technically they're an overexertion of the muscle, but it's caused because you're not hydrated enough. Mm-hmm. Not enough fluids, and so then they pull. He said that there's one injury that pisses him off more than anything else. It's a hamstring pull. Mm-hmm. He goes, because you don't need to have them. Mm. If you if you take care of yourself as far as nourishment and water and fluids, you'll never pull a hamstring.
Is that why you're always drinking water?
Well, I tell you, I didn't know that when I was younger. I bet you I had 6 hamstring pulls.
Oh, man. I got a massage earlier this morning, and my masseuse says, your hamstrings are always so tight. You make me work for my money. And I go, shut up, massage.
I'll tell you, the first one I ever got was my senior year in high school, and it was in a track event. I was doing the long jump. Mm-hmm. And I used to push off on my right leg somewhere with their left leg. And I, sprinted, and I had just jumped my personal high school record the jump before. So I'm going all out to beat it. And I was still in second place to one of my teammates in that meet, but ahead of the other school. And so I plant my right foot on the board, push off, and boom, that was it. I was done. I mean, because it was near the end of the season, and I didn't finish out the season.
Yeah, that was the first one?
That was the first one.
Wow. Not fun. By the way, what you just said also reminded me of, I know I'm going to butcher his first name, Al-Khalid Muhammad? It's not Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qadim.
There you go. He said something. He said something today that I was really impressed with when he was asked, how is it difficult for him to rev up to go hard in practice, because he has been complimented by teammates and coaches for how hard he goes in practice. And he said, no, this is something that I've always done all of my life. I started as a kid, going hard in practice all the time, because I never wanted to get into that mentality of saying to myself, I need to go hard today, because it's just automatic. I go hard all the time. And I love that type of mentality. That's the type of mentality I think every player should have for every second that they're out there on that football field. Go hard every day, never give up. And this guy is going to be a fantastic locker room presence. And I apologize for screwing up.
Well, so, he had, and this is the guy that I know who he was going back to high school. He went to one of the top Catholic private high schools in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if he had committed to Notre Dame or was close to committing or whatever, but something happened and both sides went their separate ways. He ended up down at Miami. He had a couple issues while he was down at Miami, but 17, 18-year-old kid, maturity stuff more than anything else. And he's grown up, and because of it. I think he was a free agent or a real late draft pick, originally coming out. But the talent, it was like a second round talent when he was coming out. But because of the other stuff, he got dropped lower. But he played well for the Colts, and he got paid coming here. I mean, he still hasn't hit a home run, but he's hit at least a double. And he's still young. He's still young enough to get another big contract in the league.
Matthew Fulchisi asked, "What are your thoughts on the center position now that Luke Patrick, the starter, is down?"
I don't think he's going to be down in game one, so I'm not. There's no thoughts. Now, the only concern is that it's his right thumb.
Okay, yeah.
And so until that's healed, he can't snap because he's not a left-handed snapper. Mm-hmm. So now, could he play guard? Yep. I mean, you see a lot of guys playing with broken hands in the league, but not that position. Not when it's not. If it's your left hand, he could do it. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be fine because he had surgery, and that's why they had the surgery. Mm-hmm. They might have put a little plate in there, and so that hastens the healing process. You still got 7 weeks until the first game. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of time, and he's a guy that started 28 games over the last couple of years. He knows the offense, so it's not, I don't think a big problem when you got a veteran like that knows and understands. You'd like that cohesiveness with the people around him, especially if you're going to have a new guy next to him, and most likely Schofield now. But hey, it is what it is. And there's going to be stuff he can still do in practice in another couple weeks. Mm-hmm. He just, really can't snap with that hand. It won't be able to.
I'm going to the next two practices over at Hallisall. I'm happy to report, so I'll be able to see up front. And now they're going to be in pads, so that will be even better. Because really, what happened last week in practice really wasn't much other than seeing what the guys do
as OTAs. It's just OTAs.
Or installing plays.
It's repeat. Now, the difference is that you can do more in OTAs. You can't have contact,
right?
So they had some pass rush drills, block, pass rush drills, and stuff, and you can do those without pads on, and a guy's not going to get hurt. You just, you can't go 100%, but you can go 80, 85%. Mm-hmm. And they were doing those. You can't do that in OTA. Mm-hmm. Okay. In coverage drills, you can't theoretically have press coverage. Really, you can have man coverage, but not press coverage, and really jam the receiver. Well, you can do that now. So that's the difference. So it's a more glorified OTA practice, but same thing.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for me, a relative layman, when it comes to watching practices at the NFL level? What would you advise somebody like me to look for, concentrate on? You've seen about 1 million practices. Any advice?
I always follow the big people because it's the most, especially when the pads on. Because you get into the one-on-ones and things. It's just to me, it's the best part of practice. And also when you do the one-on-ones, the other problem is a lot of times the one-on-ones with the receivers and the DBs at the same time you got one-on-ones with the big guys. It depends how the practice is. It's not like 7-on-7. 11-on-11 is hard because you've got 22 people on the field. You can't really concentrate. That's why you take everything is filmed and then you go back and you look at the film and you're looking at each play 6 or 7 times so you can grade each player. And that's what we had to do when I was there in training camp. As soon as practice was over, you'd have the tape of practice within a couple minutes and you were starting to grade each position.
Lots of praise coming in the chat room for offensive lineman Jatari Carter. Did I say that one correctly? God, I'm terrible.
I'm not sure. I think it's Jatari. It might be J Tyree. I'm not sure.
We'll refer to.
All I know is, I think this guy could be a surprise, and it might not be this year. Might be a year from now. Given it's not his talent, it's the level of comp that he's coming from, and he didn't get the quality coaching that he's going to get. And I'm not trying to knock the coaching at those schools, but more that it's still not as good as you're going to get in the NFL as far as perfecting technique, et cetera, and the quality of the people that you're going against on a daily basis. So I think the guy's got a bright upside. We'll have to see, but I know he's big, strong, he's athletic. How about this guy? This guy's a point guard when he was in high school.
Yes, nice.
At like 265 when he was in high school. And not only that, they went to the state championship and he was an all-state player. He had offers to play college basketball, not from the, like Power 5 type schools, but from some of the mid-majors.
There was a lot of talk also about Sam Mustafa in the chat room. By the way, I really appreciate everybody in the chat room. I may never have to prepare for the Gabriel Talks Football show because you guys ask all the questions, all the good questions. So, maybe I don't need another vacation. But bare truth, first of all, regarding Sam Mustafa, a lot of people have been down on Mustafa for his performance last year and maybe even as far back as 2 years ago. And some are speculating that he might not make the team. Today, he was asked if the new athletic body that he has, a little smaller but quicker, better diet and so forth, if that's going to help him with this offense. And he said maybe in terms of leverage. Wanted to get your thoughts on that because of all the experience you have in kind of monitoring weight and strength for offensive linemen.
Well, again, I know this program that Jimmy Arthur preaches. It's the same program we used under Lovey with Rusty. Jimmy was on the staff. He was Rusty's top assistant. So he's been around this program. It works on body mass and percentage of body fat, not weight. So, and going back to last year, Juan Castillo wanted big bodies. I think Mustafa was up around 330 pounds. That's too big for him. Okay, you got to find the right weight. And at the same time, you want a guy to lose weight, not because you want him thin. You want them strong. You want a low percentage of body fat. Now, with an offensive lineman, they can have 22, 23% of body fat. It's not going to be a problem. They don't want them 30, 33, 34%. And Juan wanted these guys huge, and they can't move. So different philosophy is basically what it is. Not that one's right and one's wrong. But, you look at Cody. Cody's was when he was doing his press conference the other day. He said the same thing. He's dropped weight, and he goes, it wasn't that hard for him because he's always been kind of a lean guy to begin with. But I know guys like Borum, Jenkins, Mustafer, they're all a lot smaller than they were. I bet you some are 20 pounds smaller, but they're not any less strong. In fact, they're probably stronger.
What do you think about what Cornelius says here? He says we can't have Sam Mustafer going up against big guys like Kenny Clark. Do you think that the size advantage for Kenny Clark makes Mustafer a liability?
No, it's strength and leverage and quickness. Now, Olin Kreutz played at 285 to 290 pounds. Do you ever have a problem with a big guy? Okay, so and you know who the number one backer of Mustafer is Olin Kreutz, and he takes a lot of heat on Twitter over it. He doesn't care because he just goes, "Hey, I know more than you guys do, so say what you want." But I'm going to put it this way: it's you got a new staff, new offensive line coach with a different way of thinking and teaching a different technique. Let's see what he does. He's going to have all preseason. Hey, if he doesn't do it in preseason, he's going to get caught. The best 9 guys are going to make it. What works to his advantage is that he's showing he can play 2 positions. Okay, now you're going to have your starting 5. Your backups got to be able to play it, every single one of them, out of the 4 backups, and then even your guys on the practice squad. They got to be able to play more than one position. Especially, and I think we've talked about this on the show before. You get into a game, and in most cases, most teams dress only 7 offensive linemen. So you got 2 reserves. One of those guys has got to play guard and tackle and be able to play both tackles. And the other guy's got to play center and guard. So during the course of training camp and practice, they got to work at several different positions.
I want to say hi to Ryan Badgley, who stops in from a hard day at work to be a part of the show. Badge, miss you, love you. And one of the things just to
hard day at work. What's he doing watching this at 2 p.m?
He's playing a little hooky, maybe. I don't know. I'll keep my mouth shut. I used to coach a flag football team. I grew up, I'm a Puerto Rican and grew up in a predominantly Puerto Rican neighborhood. And so I coached a flag football team that was comprised 95% of Puerto Ricans. My offensive lineman was 5'5". It was flag football. He was the center. And I'll say this about Jose Torres, little Jose, that guy knew how to use leverage. I mean, they would line up right on the nose, some guy who weighed 100 pounds more and was easily 6 inches taller. And Jose just stood in there with outstanding leverage and strength and held his own against a lot of those guys. So
low man wins.
There you go. There you go.
Low man wins in most sports.
All right. I want to talk about Riley Reef, the new acquisition, who is probably 99.9% sure that he will be the left tackle moving forward. Your thoughts?
No, I'd say 99.99999. Assuming he doesn't get hurt. That's for this time of year. That was a hell of a pickup.
Yeah.
And there were other teams trying to sign him. I think the Jets were going after him and a couple others. Got a lot of experience. He played most of his career when he was with Detroit. He was and Minnesota. He was a left tackle. Has played some right tackle. Played right tackle at Cincinnati last year before he got hurt near the end of the year. Doesn't play as well on the right side. And that's can be the case with a lot of players. They prefer one side, but in his case, all through college at Iowa, and he was a pretty damn good player coming out. He was a left tackle, and when he first came into the league, and the best part of his career is playing at left tackle. So he brings a lot of experience. He's never been a Pro Bowl type guy. He's a workman guy that you can, I like to label guys you can win with or win because of. You win with Riley Reef, not because of. But better than what they've had. I say right now he's better than Leno.
I was just going to ask you that. He's better than Charles Leno. Everybody always tells me when I make a statement like that, well, follow the money. Who's making more money? And in this case, it's Leno, not Riley Reef. Why is that?
It's almost similar.
Well, Riley Reef's contract is a $3 million.
Yeah, but he's got all those incentives that are like, if you wake up in the morning, you're going to get them.
That's true. That's true.
Like got to play something like 25%. I don't know the exact, but it's a real low percentage.
Yeah, it's very.
But what it does is it saves the cap, and then he gets paid at the end of the year.
Do you think he's better than the guy we had in last year, who's going to the Hall of Fame, Peters? Now, not Peters, the Hall of Fame Peters, but the Peters that we saw last year, who surprisingly played a lot better than I thought.
He played pretty good football. I mean, it took him a while to get acclimated, get himself in shape. But consider he was 40 years old. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I just saw a thing last week. He still wants to play. So I'm just sitting here waiting. He goes, right team, right time. He goes, how could I call? And I think he will because his tape was good enough. But I think, I'm going to say better because younger. He's taller. He's not as big. Peters was probably 340, 350.
Easy.
And again, that was too big for him. Mm-hmm. When he came out, when he was a tight end at Arkansas, and I went to see him, he was probably 300, 305. And then when he was a rookie and he was on the practice squad his first year in Buffalo, again, he was in that 305, 310 area. And I think when he was really good in Philly, he was probably 315 to 320. Mm-hmm. And, he was coming off not an ACL, an Achilles injury when I was at Philly. So he wasn't at training camp. He wasn't ready to go, but he was like jogging and actually running on this treadmill that was set in water and stuff. So it didn't have to carry all his weight, yet he was still getting cardiovascular work out of it. And, he was a freak athlete. I mean, like I say, he was a tight end at 300 pounds in college. And he is going to go in the Hall of Fame. So at his heyday, Peters is better than Riley Reef. But Riley Reef, you can win with him in this league. Hell, Cincinnati and Cincinnati had a bad line, and he wasn't playing at his optimum spot, and they went to Super Bowl with him last year.
I like the way J2K puts it. Peters is better, but Reef knows and fits this offense better.
I don't think Peters is better now today.
Okay,
there's like an 8-year difference in age.
Yeah, that's huge. I'll tell you one thing. One of the things I was most impressed with Jason Peters last year was how he got out to the second level, because I saw tape from his previous season and he was having a little bit of a problem. Now, it was probably a tape from late in the season, so probably his body had enough for that season. And that was another thing that I was impressed at, that he played virtually every week. So he was a great find by Ryan Pace. One of the nice things that Ryan Pace did for the Chicago.
In fairness, that was a Juan Castillo deal.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Juan Castillo, he played for Juan in Philly. Juan's the guy who developed him in Philly, and they had a close relationship. Juan's the guy who made the phone call.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's making a request of you, Greg. Please come back and work for the Chicago Bears. Too bad that's not George McCaskey writing that. It's Alfred Smith. Let's move over to the defense, because I really, really want to talk about the following.
Wait, we got to say one thing.
Please.
Biggs tweeted it out this morning, and I had no idea this was going to happen. Carl Pekarsky, who is the assistant equipment guy to Tony Medlin. Tony Medlin's been there, I think, since George Ellis. But Carl's been there forever too. Carl retired over the weekend.
Wow.
made his retirement official over the weekend. He'll be missed. Great guy. And the players love him. The coaches love him. Everybody in the building loves him. So, congrats to Carl.
Good. Maybe we can get him on the show in the future just to talk about what that job entails and what's his future going to be and so forth. I'll see if I can get.
I'll tell you, you want to find out about players? Those are the people you talk to.
Yeah,
they're around them.
Mm-hmm. They can share little things like how polite the players are. Like I remember a story about, and I forgot who the source was, but that players who would get dressed and just throw all their crap all over the socks, the underwear, the pants, and so forth. And the trainers got to pick all this stuff up. Whereas some players would politely hand it or throw it in the basket where it belongs and so forth. That to me is just one of those little traits that you kind of judge a player on. How you're looking at me like, fuck you.
You know what? I learned when I was with the Giants, the guy you want to be your best friend is the equipment guy.
There you go.
Like T-Med, I put T-Med up on a big totem pole. He's the best. And the same with Carl. Because if you need something, if you're good to them and you need something, they're going to be good to you. That's how I got these helmets here. And I got a Giants helmet that, downstairs. You don't think that they don't just give those things away.
Yeah, right. I was going to talk about the defensive secondary, but before we go to the defense, I wanted to, of course, talk about the other offensive lineman that was acquired last week, and that's Michael Schofield III. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, I think, we talked a little bit about him last week. Schofield was acquired before we did the last show, and
that's right.
Riley Reef wasn't signed until a couple hours after we shut it down, or officially signed, put it that way. No, Schofield's a good player. He's another guy that you win with, not because of. And he's got versatility. Mostly played at right guard and been pretty good at right guard. But then, and we talked about this last week too, but he's never made a huge amount of money. I mean, he's getting over $1 million here, but by standards as compared to veteran linemen, that's like the most he's ever made in a year. I think is like $3.5 million when he was in San Diego. He was in San Diego twice, but at the first time he was in San Diego, he got a pretty good contract. But he's a guy that been pretty durable. He plays good, real good pass blocker. That's the strong point of his game. But he gets after it in the run game too, and he's athletic enough. He's not overly huge. They list him at 306. Whether he's a little bigger than that, I don't know. But he moves good enough that he can get out in space and adjust on the move to hit a moving target. He's a good player, and he's a veteran. This is his ninth year in the league. So, and he started a lot of games. I think he started 86 games over the course of his career. So he's played a lot of football in the NFL.
Do you think that the acquisition of these two players, I know I'm asking you to speculate here, but do you think that the acquisition of these two offensive linemen had more to do with, all right, we saw OTAs, and there's a couple little concerns here, or that these guys are available, they're coming at a good price for us, let's snatch them up because we could always use the depth?
I think it's a combination of both, and I put a lot of thought into this. I think OTAs was all about getting, to know who was already here. And then they drafted all those young guys and get to see what they can do. Now, again, OTAs, no contact. So it's more about the mental part of the game and how quickly they can pick things up. Can they adapt? Can they make adjustments when the quarterback changes, the player changes, the protection, whatever. And so that part was good. I think always in the back of their mind, they had a short list of guys that once camp got, they got close to camp, they'd go out and sign these guys. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised that contact original contact wasn't made like last week or the week before. It might have been made weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And let's just wait and see how this plays out. And, if push came to shove, if somebody else was going to get ready to sign him, then you might have had to get into a situation where you got to bid him. But, look at the Reef contract. Yeah, his base salary is $3 million, or actually got a signing bonus. I looked at his contract today. He got a signing bonus, and then the salary brings it to $3 million. But you have all those incentives that can take him, give him another $9.5 million. And a lot of those incentives are really easy to get. Mm-hmm. Schofield doesn't have that in his contract. He wasn't as in demand as Riley Reef was, but still you go back and you look at the tape, and he originally was with, I think, Baltimore last year, got cut at the final cut down. And then the Chargers brought him back. He didn't start at first, but I think by the third game, he was in the starting lineup again, and started all but one game, then the rest of the season. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Chargers had a pretty good offense.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, now let's turn over to the defense. These defensive backs, these two rookies that were acquired in the second round by Ryan Poles, boy, they are really turning heads. And Kyler Gordon was discussed at length over the last several practices because he's been playing a lot of nickel. Let me play for you what Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator, is saying about Kyler and why he is so good.
Twitchy. He can change directions, and he has some size to him. And he's a ball magnet. For some reason, he's always around the football, and he's around the football. And when he is, he turns it over. And he's smart. He gobbles up information. He's one of the ones that you like, has good athleticism, but also has the will and the drive to be a good player. So we're excited about him.
He was in here the other day expressing his eagerness to play inside. How has that resonated with you, just his want to and kind of his desire to be in the mix in the middle there?
Yeah, that's a big deal. When players want to do what you ask them to do, some guys are just compliant. They go, "Hey, coach, I'll do anything you ask me to do." But when you have a guy that wants to do what you're asking him to do, you get a little extra edge in terms of how that guy performs.
Mr. Shorty wants to know, Greg, is Kyler Gordon on a path to the Hall of Fame?
Well, let's hold back a little bit. He hasn't played one game yet. I think it's going to turn out to be a good pick. I remember doing tape on him in the spring, mm-hmm. and I actually thought, his teammate went higher. His teammate went in the first round. Yeah. I thought he had more upside. But the other guy had been a productive player for a number of years in the Pac-12 mm-hmm. at the University of Washington. So he had the experience factor. This guy's pretty good. What hurt him a little bit is he didn't time as good as everybody thought he was going to time. And when you watch him, he plays like he's a mid 4.4 guy, but he timed it like 4:52 or something like that was official time. Not bad by any means. I mean, there's some Pro Bowl players in the league that cornered out of Miami, who's one of the best in the league. He was like a 4.57 when he timed. So, and sometimes you got to take times with a grain of salt. You got to look at their play speed. I don't know if you're a track guy. The World Championships were on a couple of weeks ago over the course of a week. Do you think a sprinter runs the same time every time he lines up to run the 100 meters? Far from it. Mm-hmm. So that 4.52 might have been a bad day for him. I think he's, plays like a 4.45 guy. But he's got even better quickness, and he's explosive. He can jump. He's got a vertical. He's got a good long jump. He's got a good length. And then you saw that, when he got drafted, the ballet thing when he was a kid, that flexibility is unreal that he had, and that he still has that amount of flexibility. I mean, that's one of the things you want to have in a DB. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that guy can twist like a pretzel. And, so But here's the one thing, I thought he'd be playing outside, and they signed Teven Young I thought to play in the corner, and if I'm not mistaken, Young was signed before the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought when they drafted him, they were going to play him strictly outside at least this year. But now you go back and to when Flus was named the head coach, and he talked about the defense, and his three key guys are the three technique, the will linebacker, and the nickel. And who are they putting at the nickel? Or at least it looks like they're,
Right.
I don't think it's set in stone yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that alone tells you a lot about the player. That they think that much of him as a rookie,
Mm-hmm.
that they can put him in one of the most three important spots on the defense,
Mm-hmm.
and be a good player.
Yeah. And I listened to that press conference where he, right at the top of the press conference, said, I had a feeling that they were going to ask me to play during OTAs. And so I immediately got a smile on my face, and I said, I want to do that, because in college he had some success at that position. It's quite the honor for him, and hopefully he will not let us down.
Some people think of the, and it really depends on the scheme. The nickel is like, well, he's your third corner in the scheme of things. Not necessarily the case.
Not anymore.
And again, it depends on the scheme and who's coaching the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
So in this scheme, he's at worst your number two corner, but he's asked to do more than the outside guys.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he's got to cover a tight end. Sometimes he's got to cover a wide receiver, be it a little guy or a big guy. So you got to have, and teams are looking for mismatches. You look at Green Bay when they had Adams last year. Adams would line up at all three of the wide receiver positions during the course of a game, and they'd look for the mismatches and get him into a situation where he was going against the weak guy. Mm-hmm. And if the weak guy was in the slot, he lined up in the slot against the Bears often. And it's because, their weakest corner was in the slot. Their littlest guy was in the slot. And so, teams are going to do that. Well, Gordon's got some size to him, and he's got length. And he's strong, and he's explosive. So that's going to take away that. He's got the quickness that he can cover the little guys. Mm-hmm. And he's got the size and the length that he can match up well against the big guys. And they're going to use, you go back and you look at Colts tape, and they'll blitz the slot corner a lot and do other things with him. He's an integral part of the run game. So you got to have some toughness.
Toughness indeed. And let me tell you about another tough guy. It's Mr. Shorty in the chat room, because he's got a really good podcast called Bears Country Podcast, and he's going to have a couple of guests on tonight, including J2K Larsonet, and that's going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern. That would be 4 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Is it 4 p.m.?
5 Eastern would be 2 Pacific.
Yeah, 5 p.m. Eastern would be.
He's got 5 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. That ain't the way it works. It's the other way around.
Anyway, look for Bears Country Podcast. Mr. Shorty does a great job with his show there, and he's had on Jordan Silvera a couple times, and I think he's going to be on again tonight. Anyway, check it out. Let's see. Mr. Shorty says 8 p.m. Eastern, so that would be 7 Central, and I don't know what it'll be out in the West. It should be 5 p.m. Central or West. Anyway,
yes, West.
Let us continue to talk about this Bears secondary, because the other rookie, Jaquan Brisker, is getting some accolades as well. Tough hitting guy, can play in the box. What is your level of concern about the Bears potentially starting 2 rookies in the defensive backfield?
None, because the coaches wouldn't start them if they didn't think they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, will opponents go after him? Sure. But I think both of these guys got short memories. It's easier to play safety from the standpoint is that you don't have all those one-on-one matchups that a corner has.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to open up against San Francisco, and San Francisco's got a pretty good wideout. And by the way, as long as those two wideouts got signed, DK Metcalf and the guy in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
I think I said to you off there, when Metcalf got signed, I turned on one of the two sports stations, and it was a night show, and it wasn't one of the regular guys. But he was pissed off because the Bears didn't go all out to try to make a trade for DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on. DK Metcalf was not available in the trade. Not last week, not 2 months ago, not 6 months ago, not ever.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle was never going to trade him. San Francisco is never going to trade their player. These guys, you're in the business to collect good players, and these guys are young, good players. An older player can be a different story. These are young, good players. It's a matter of coming together and making a deal. It's going to be the same thing with Roquan. You want to make a deal, you got to get the numbers right. Sometimes it takes a little time to get the numbers right.
Yep, that's very true. I got a soundbite here from our offensive coordinator, Luke Getzi. He was asked about there was a couple of practices where the wide receivers were dropping a lot of passes. And so he was asked about that. And this was his response.
Yeah, I'm not. We're just getting started, right? We're just getting back at this thing. For me, it's the lack of execution that I'm focused on right now. That's what pisses me off more than anything is right now is getting that stuff taken care of and getting that out of there, and guys knowing what the heck to do, so then we can talk about stuff like that as you get going.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about earlier. It's all about installing stuff now, and what coaches are looking for first and foremost. Are they lining up correctly?
Right. It's coaches more than my personal experience with coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They can live with a drop sometimes, unless it's a continual thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then it becomes maybe a concentration thing. They hate mental mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And, because they want to be able to trust the player that if you put him in the game, he's not going to make a mental mistake. A physical mistake, they'll forgive.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't going to forgive mental mistakes.
At today's press conference, the new tight end for the Bears, Ryan Griffin, said that he was asked to compare Patrick Mahomes and Justin Fields. And he says, I'm not into that comparison thing, but I will tell you one thing is that they are both great leaders. Can you give me an example of that leadership? Well, with Justin and both Patrick, they will yell at you to get lined up correctly, and did that happen to you, Ryan? Yeah, Justin yelled at me just the other day because I was lined up incorrectly. So this is the time of season where you're going to see receivers drop passes because they're thinking too much. Am I lined up right? What's the count and all this stuff? And so that's going to lead to these errors. Hopefully they get all of that pre-snap stuff embedded in their brains and they go out there and perform at a higher level.
Wasn't it at this time of the year last year that it seemed like every day Jamar Chase was dropping multiple passes at the Cincinnati Bengals practice?
Good point. Yes.
Okay. How many did he drop once the bell rang?
Not many.
I remember this guy's going to be a bust. He can't catch.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a tendency, us fans, I'm referring to, of overreacting, exactly. And so that leads me to another topic I wanted to chat with you on. Is this whole the media is getting clobbered, especially the national media, because they've predicted the Bears are going to have the worst team in the league. Justin Fields is going to lead the league in interceptions and so forth. But even the local media has been kicked in the balls. And sometimes I come to their defense because it's not their job to be in cahoots with the team. They're not PR agents for the Chicago Bears. It's their job to be adversarial, to ask tough questions and so forth. Now, you can blame them or support them when they editorialize and they're opinion is not high of the team, but that's still their job. What are your thoughts on the media in Chicago?
Overall, too negative. And I've thought that for a long time. And, I worked in radio here, as an analyst for a number of years, you deal with it. I personally am not a negative person. I'm very positive. I always look, and we've talked about this. The glass is half full. It's not half empty. I read stuff. The cohesiveness, the execution has been really poor. It's the first frickin' week of practice. It's a new offense. It's not like they've been playing this offense for the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They played Nagy's offense for 4 years. Now they're going into an entirely different type of scheme, different numbering system, different terminology. You brought in a bunch of new players. That's what you have practice for. That's what you have training camp for. Now, once you get into September and the games count, and then you see that lack of execution, then you can hold people accountable and come out. But practice, especially during practice, you're not playing, during the course of a game, except for, defense, you got more substitution because they like to rotate guys. But on offense, you're pretty much playing with the same 5 guys on the offensive line, the same quarterback. You might rotate the running backs a little bit, and you might rotate one receiver in, but say you're playing with 4 receivers, your top 4 receivers for the 3 wide receiver positions and 2 tight ends, but you don't have that mass substitution that you have in training camp. Mm-hmm. And in training camp, you've got a different set of receivers every single play. And they're trying to figure out who's going to be the line. And you've got, 3 or 4 plays with these 5 guys. Then the next 3 or 4 plays with these 5 guys. Mm-hmm. And, cohesiveness is not going to be there. Mm-hmm. I remember, what was it? The the 1990 season. And I was working for the Giants, and I went to I think it was the final preseason game, and it was at the University of South Carolina, of all places. The Chicago Bears played the Buffalo Bills. Chicago killed the Bills. Yay. Killed them. And I mean, I don't know what the score was. You'd have to look it up. But I bet you they won by at least 4 touchdowns and probably more. The Bills didn't even show up. That year, the Bills went to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they had that K-gun offense, they had the most productive offense in the National Football League that year, and they lost by a field goal to us, the New York Giants. So, I know what training camp is about. I'll tell you a story. My last year with the Giants was the 2000 season. When I left training camp, I thought we were going to only win 5 or 6 games. That's how bad we looked in training camp. We went to the Super Bowl that year, lost to Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And that was the year that Jim Fossil made that pledge, about halfway through the season, we will be in the playoffs.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But it just, that year alone taught me a lot. It's not what you see in August. August is about putting your team together. Mm-hmm. You got to find out who's going to be on your team. And once you figure that out, then you start working on the small things.
Right.
And what you're going to be using week in and week out.
Right. Justin Fields got some heat at the end of OTAs. He was asked, "Are you ready to go?" He goes, "No, we're not ready to go. We're not ready as an offense." And he should have been applauded for his candor. And I think he was still.
I got a little visitor here. Wait a second. Let me shut the door.
Okay. And I'll just continue saying that Justin Fields should have been applauded for his candor, and he and some of the other teammates are still saying, we're not ready to rock and roll yet. We still are working on installing stuff, but it's going to happen. We've got to keep some positivity about that. And I want to make sure I share this.
I didn't want him to start barking, so I had to. He's probably pissed off at me because I didn't have him in here at the beginning like he always is.
Yeah, I mean, we need to get him his own camera too. I'm going to go over to your house and set up a camera here.
You know, my wife is home, and so he was wherever in the house, part of the house she's in.
Yeah, I know.
Then he decided, wait a minute, this is where I'm supposed to be.
That's right. It's showtime.
That's right.
Mr. Shorty is almost saying exactly what you said the other day, is that Flus says at the top of the press conference, we're not disclosing injuries. And then the next 4 questions were about injuries.
I tweeted that out. And it's like, come on. This has been going on for like 10, 11 years.
That's right.
They already know, they know the answer. Really, because there's a rookie head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be different.
No. Earlier, Bear Truth 9 asked, can you ask Greg about how they keep these guys in reasonable shape when injuries happen like this? This was back when we were talking about Teven Jenkins and Lucas Patrick in particular. And he asked what kind of adjustments happen to help keep them as strong as possible.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story because it brings up when I was with the Giants.
Great.
And our assistant trainer was a guy by the name of Jimmy Madalino, and he's the head guy at the University of Kentucky now. And Parcells told Jimmy, I want you to work the hell out of these guys when they're hurt. They'd rather be practicing than be hurt, you know. So, and so they might, you know, you had 2-hour practice. And back then we had 2 days. So these guys would spend an hour with Jimmy in the morning and an hour in the afternoon during 2 days. And he would wear their ass out, you know, as far as cardio and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it depends on the injury. If you got a knee injury and you can't do something, but regardless of what the injury was, you were doing something to keep yourself in good shape. And then when you're cleared, and you know, not only does the training staff have to sign off, but the doctor's got to sign off. You know, all this stuff is documented, exactly what it is. It's all written up. You know, when the original injury happens, the coach and the GM gets a report, such and such injury. We expect them to miss 5 or 6 days. You may want to just use them sparingly the first couple of days back. You know, they already know the answer to a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me get another question in here. Does Greg have thoughts on how the running backs are doing? Flus also talked about the fullback today. What have you heard about this really talented room of running backs?
Not a lot. I'm interested to see how they use the guy. I really want to see how they're going to use is Ebner.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Ebner is almost a bigger version of Tariq Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
He catches the ball really well, and he's about the same speed. And I was watching one game. He had 2 returns, kickoff returns for a touchdown in one game. He gets out in the open field, it's all over. You know, light up the board at 7 points because you aren't catching them.
Mm-hmm.
And he catches the ball, you know, and they at Baylor, they used him flanked out sometimes. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the Bears do that too. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him in the preseason. The fullback wasn't really a part of the Bears offense the last few years. It depends, you know, when they used a fullback, it was a tight end. And Flus talked about that a little bit today. If you can get a tight end who can do some of that fullback role. But when you look at Green Bay and San Francisco, which is pretty much the same offense, there's a part for that position for the fullback. He's not playing every down. He might only be playing 20% of the downs. He might carry the ball once every 2 games, and that's just to make him feel good about himself. It's a blocking position. It's a receiving position, not necessarily a carry the ball position. But in the way they do things, and part of it's motion too, it's an important position. So I think, there's going to be one. There's only one in camp. Blasingame. And now if they can get one of the tight ends shows that he can play, most of these guys are pretty big, the tight end. So I don't know if they can, we're blasting games, 6 feet, 6'1", something like that. If they can get a tight end who has the movement skills and can stay low enough to do that lead blocking role, then he would be the backup. He'd be back up at certain tight end positions. And that'll, when it gets down to the final cut down, when you see how many tight ends they keep, that'll tell you a little bit too.
We got late breaking news. Thanks, Scox, for making us aware of this. Ian Rapoport says the Bears have received calls and have held trade talks. Is this up on the screen? Yeah. And have received trade talks centered around offensive tackle Teven Jenkins. Sources tell me, and Mike Garofalo, the former second-round pick, has drawn interest based on his potential, a situation to watch. And Brad Biggs retweets it saying, based on how Jenkins was used in spring, surely the Bears would prefer to get a future pick for him than release him if they don't deem him a fit. I got to tell you this. There's no way they're going to release Teven Jenkins. Not because
of the contract, but it's he's on a rookie contract. There's something we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we may never know, or we may find out. In fact, I'll be honest. I was texting Biggs yesterday. What do you know? And he didn't know much. And if anybody has a pretty good handle, it's Biggsy. And but I can tell you, in trade, you paid a second a year ago. You aren't getting that second back.
That's right.
You aren't getting the third back.
No way.
So you better be. The guy's really talented. So unless it's something, if the coach is, I just don't want this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that could very well be the case. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of times especially in the offensive line, when Harry was here, I worked very closely with Harry, and any guy we were interested in, we would send Harry. What's the beer thing when the guy had that? The beer thing. What was the beer thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Shorty, give us a little more detail on that beer thing. Go ahead with your thoughts.
That would have been last year anyway. But anyway, getting back to what I was working with Harry, and we'd send Harry out to work out every single guy we had some interest in, so he could get a feel, for the player, personality wise. And there's guys who came back. I don't want him. Why not? He will not fit in the room. They'll eat him up, whatever. He won't get along with Olin, and or be a problem with some of those guys, because we had a pretty strong group of veterans on that football team,
right?
On the offensive line, and so it was important to him that he got to know the kid, so that he could go thumbs up or thumbs down on whether. And he had the feel of the offensive line room. He knew what the personalities were like, obviously, having coached them. And so he wanted a specific type of kid. And, as I said early in the show, there were some teams that had red flags on him. Now, I don't know if last year the offensive line coach Morgan was at Pittsburgh. I don't know if Pittsburgh had a red flag. I don't know if he went out and worked them out. I don't know if Kansas City had a red flag. but Ryan Poles would have known.
Yep.
Okay. So, and if that's the case, there could have been a negative when he walked in the door. When Ryan walked in the door, or Morgan walked in the door, and if you get to a situation now, Cap said that there was somebody said there was an argument, and it might have been heated between, Morgan and Jenkins. If that's the case, and Morgan doesn't want him, it isn't going to work. You can never shove a player down a coach's throat. It won't work. And you're wasting time. It just that coach he's not going to do anything with that guy.
Mr. Shorty responded back to our question about the beer thing, and it was Teven Jenkins. I think this is jogging my memory. I think it was on the Olin Kreutz podcast where, Shorty says it was the Bears presser where Teven Jenkins said that he had to cut down on his beer. And so, of course, that leads to speculation that maybe he's, an alcoholic or having addiction problems or whatever the hell it is. But
I'll tell you, I listened to the Olin podcast when he was on, and it was probably a 20-minute segment anyway, 20-minute segment. And I, in all honesty, I thought, they tried to get into what the problem was, and he wouldn't talk about it.
Right.
But he did talk about Jimmy Arthur and the program and getting the body fat right and the conditioning right. And he seemed to be buying into all of that. Now, there's one thing I know about Teven Jenkins. You don't ever have to worry about him in the weight room. That is one strong dude. He did 35 reps of the bench at his pro day. Okay, because there was no combine a year ago.
Right.
You don't do 35 reps because you don't go in and work out. That's hard to do. That means he's benching over 500 pounds.
The other thing that I want to mention is this strong guy, Teven Jenkins. When Ian Rapoport reports that the Bears have received calls, you're the one that's taught me this, is sometimes that stuff that's coming from either an agent or maybe the team, because the team maybe wants to trade Teven Jenkins, and so they want to announce to the world, yeah, we're getting calls, so that they can maybe drive up the price from a 6th-round draft pick to a 5th rounder or 4th rounder.
So that's not going to get much. I'd be surprised. Right off the top of my head, I'm saying 5, maybe 4, because he was hurt last year. And now they're running him out of town. So why should I pay for you?
Yeah. Well, if those calls are being initiated by the other teams, though, so there may be a desire to work with a talented guy, but we'll see. Well, we can only.
There's no question. All you got to do is turn on the tape, and there's talent.
Absolutely.
If there's a personality problem or defect, they're not ever going to let that out. Is there, there might be ways to find out eventually, but, especially now, if in fact they are trying to deal him, then, and I'll go back about that. Just the fact that a guy like Rap Sheet tweets that out, that can be a negative too. Because now it's like teams are going to go out. He's going to get cut.
Oh,
why should I trade anything when I can get him? The same thing, as I said about when the Bears gave up a 7th for N'Keal Harry. It's like he was going to get cut. When you give up a 7th a year from now, and 24 to get him, you knew he was going to get cut. The difference was you got him in camp day 1 versus getting him 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Or 3 weeks from now.
Right.
And so that might have been worth the future. I was hoping there was a clause. A clause in there that he had to make the team for you to give up the 7th-round pick, but there wasn't. It was a clean. There was no conditions attached to the trade because it comes over on the waiver wire. So when I got the waiver wire for that day, it was a clean trade. It would say conditional 7th-round pick.
Right.
And then,
well, we'll see if maybe they get that 7th rounder back in a Teven Jenkins trade. That would be depressing. 2nd round investment for a 7th rounder.
I'll tell you one thing though. I mean, you can't. If there's a good part, there's never a good part. But the good part is it's not on these guys. Mm-hmm. It's not on Flus. It's not on Poles. It's not on Morgan. This one goes back on Ryan Pace and Nagy. That was their guy.
Absolutely. Got 2 more questions I want to squeeze in here. Sam Rush says, can Greg talk about how they're going to figure out the wide receiver depth chart? I mean, do all of the new additions get a chance to develop chemistry with Justin to get a feel for what he can work with?
Well, I kind of answered that a little while ago when I said that, every single play, there's a new group of receivers in there in practice. It's not like you're running 3 or 4 plays in a row for the receivers. It's a different group just about every play. So in that way, you've got some intermingling between the quarterback and the different receivers. And on top of that, you've got the one-on-ones and some of that stuff during individual portion of practice. The way most teams keep probably 6. There are times I've seen teams keep 7. But when you're cutting your roster and you get down to having those 6 guys, number 5 and number 6 might not necessarily be, and I've said this before and it's worth repeating, number 5 and number 6 might not necessarily be your 5th and 6th best receiver. And also, let me back up a little bit. Some of these guys might not have done anything in the preseason games, okay, or got thrown to once. And so you're saying, how's he going to make the team?
Right.
They're in practice every day. Every play they're in is being charted and graded. So you're graded on the whole training camp, not just what happens because, circumstances come in the game. What's the weather conditions? There was one game when I was here in an August preseason game. They stopped the game in the middle of the 3rd quarter, beginning of the 4th quarter, because we had real torrential thunderstorm going on. So it's like, it's preseason. It doesn't count. So again, there's a number of factors, but getting back to 5 and 6. 5 and 6 have to give you something on special teams, be it a returner, a gunner, cover guy, whatever. He's got to do that. And if you get a guy who's a receiver only, he's going to get cut, and you'll put him on practice squad. If number 4 goes down, maybe you bring him up. Because 1, 2, 3, and 4 are your primary receivers. And if one of those guys can give you something on specials, that's great. I'm going to assume right now that Velus Jones is going to be in the top 4. And we already know that he's, whether he's going to be the number 1 returner or number 1 punt returner, that remains to be seen. If this group's got one thing, that on paper, they got some pretty damn good returners, both kickoff and punt, based on what they've done in college. And Pringle, too. Pringle has been a pretty good punt returner. ESB has been a decent cover guy. Pringle has been a real good cover guy as a gunner, early in his career. So, but that's how they're going to settle that number. I know that Harry had a cover kicks for New England and did a pretty good job on that. He returned kicks in college and was better than adequate. In fact, by the way, I dug up, remember last week we talked about him, and I dug up my report that I had on him if you want me to.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now I got to wait for it here.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I love it when you read these scouting reports to us. Great stuff.
What did I do with it? Oh, heck, I don't have it anymore. I got his combine results in it. Oh, wait, here it is. I just got to wait for my computer to bring this up here.
Catch up, huh? So I gotta tell you, while you're waiting for your computer,
I got it.
Okay, just real quickly, Olin Krutz retweeted the Ian Rapoport report about Teven Jenkins phone calls, and so he posts this picture.
I can't see it because I brought my thumb up.
Oh, okay. He's got a picture of Ryan Pace. Of course, it's Ryan Pace calling about Teven Jenkins. Anyway, please go ahead.
I got size. I estimated, because this was before the combine that this was written, estimated that he was 6'035", 216, and ran 4.47. Well, he wasn't quite 6'035". He was 6'027. And at the combine, he weighed 228. At his pro day, he was 225. And then he only ran at the combine. He ran 4.52. So he wasn't quite as fast as he played. I said, great size with long arms, well built and strong, explosive athlete with speed, quick feet, change of direction, flexibility, and body control. Very productive. Has very good hands and adjusts to the ball very well. Makes the contested catch. Strong runner after the catch, willing blocker. Good route runner who can break down and get in and out of cuts. Open even when he's covered because of his size. Returns, punts, and kickoffs. Weak points, he's fast, but he's not 4.3 in the 4.3 range fast. When not the primary, there are times when he's not all in. Did not play in the Arizona State bowl game. He opted out. Then I said summation. I said, here he is, a third-year junior who was entering the draft. He was a top recruit out of high school and became a full-time starter right away at Arizona State. He had very productive career, 213 receptions for 2,889 yards and 22 touchdowns. For a big receiver, he's quick and fast and better runner, and a better runner than most. Very reliable as a returner, or when used on reverses, jet sweeps, etc. While still a bit raw as a route runner, he has excellent upside and could develop into a club's number one in time. Will be a matchup problem for many defenses because of his size and athleticism. If he works out well at the combine, that could very well determine where he gets drafted. And I had a first round grade. He ended up being like the last pick in the first round or second last pick in the first round. But when me or any analyst writes a report, and I think I said this last week, we don't have access to character. Unless somebody can give it to us, you're not making a school call. And that was with him. And I had a little thing in there. Is he always all in? And I think that was the problem at New England. He wasn't always all in. He's supposed to be a smart guy, but, did he adapt to being able to pick up that offense? And that's a very, very difficult offense. I think this offense fits his game better than New England's offense. So it's a wait and see. I mean, as I said last week, I love 7th round picks. If I could have 5 of them every draft, I'd love it. But is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it if he makes the team and he does something. If he's just going to be a guy that's going to, we'll have to see. He knows it's, last chance university right now.
It is. And speaking of my last question for you comes from Chris Watts. Do you think NFL players are as tough as the players from the 1980s?
That's a good question. I don't know if I know how to answer that. And they're tough. It's a different breed. They're coached differently.
Yeah.
We had a coach with the Giants, Lamar Leachman. who, if he was a coach today, he'd be fired the first day.
Because of the aggression he was teaching?
No, just what comes out of his mouth. Okay. And the way he says it. Now, the players loved him. But in today's politically correct world, you know, you just can't say the things that he was saying. You know, I mean, just I can say a couple of things, but there's others, you know, I might tell you off the air, but I wouldn't tell you on the air. But, you know, he'd be watching the play, and you know, Flus calls them loaf plays.
Yeah.
And Lamar would say, "Don't give me that union shit."
That's hilarious. Union shit. Yeah, that would not make him.
And that was one of the mild ones.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. I think we better pull the plug on this one because we could easily go another 2 hours. But we got to save our energy. It's a long season. Any final thoughts, Greg? You want to say anything to your loving fans?
No, I wanted to meet you out there this week, but under the conditions, I got to be in quarantine, I guess, for a few more days. Well,
I've got passes for next week as well. So if you want to go, let me know, and we'll make arrangements. Be nice to have you.
I didn't even go to the gym today. That's how good I'm trying to be.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, you got to do some sacrificing when this crap happens, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think I'm fine, but being that I'm exposed.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I haven't worked out in the last 5 years, Greg, because of COVID.
It's only been around for 2.5.
Oh,
so what's your excuse for the other 2.5?
The flu.
Oh, okay. Swine flu or something?
Yeah.
Or are you going to go back as far as AIDS or something? You know, when that.
That's right. AIDS. I don't want to get AIDS from touching those weights. All right, everybody. This has been Gabriel Talks Football GTF. Let all of your friends know about this show. It's going to come out every Monday with some exceptions during the season, and it's there's an audio version that will be available about an hour after this video is done. And this video will be done in about 30 seconds. Goodbye, Greg.
See you later.
All righty.